Hello, welcome to the video. Today I have the worst superhero game ever made, Kick-Ass 2. Remember the films? They were pretty good. I don't ever remember thinking, wow, I really want a kick-ass game though. And no one else did either, apparently, because the reviews for this are especially scathing, with my favourite being Just Ass 2 would be a more fitting title. I think this game is trying to be a mix of Arkham Asylum's combat and the humour from 2013's Deadpool, however it's just a bargain bin version of both. Basically, if you wanted to play Arkham Asylum and your mum said you have it at home, this is Arkham Asylum at home. Now my problems with this game started before even playing, and were so bad I just considered looking at another game. First time I played it, it crashed my PC, which resulted in a 20-minute boot loop. Then I played it again, where the controller consistently vibrated and never stopped, so I had to restart the game. And the third time I tabbed out to get OBS going, only for the game to change all the font on my computer, which took me half an hour to fix. So seriously, fuck this game. When I finally did get the game working, I immediately fucking regretted it. This is the worst, laziest cash grab I've ever seen in my life by far, and there was clearly no effort at all when making it. Anyway, let's get started with the story. It's the same as the movie, obviously. Except there are some inconsistencies, like Hit Girl somehow being older than Kick-Ass.
When I was your age, my kill list was longer than Manfred von Richthofen's.
Despite her being younger in both the comics and the movies, and at the start of this game when it's retelling the story of the first film, she's younger. Yet, when you start playing, she's older. So Kick-Ass is like 18, so she must be in her 20s. I don't know, maybe she had some rapid aging in this that was just never stated in the comics or the films? I'm pretty sure they just didn't give a single fuck when they were making this game. Now, story inconsistencies aside, it's also the way the story is presented. Like, all the graphics and cutscenes are done in a comic book style, which makes sense in context of the game, but it just looks so choppy at times, and by that I mean most of the time. I think they've gone for the style of the comic books, but it looks like they've just got someone from Fiverr using paint to do it. Also, the characters in-game look nothing like their movie counterpart, except for Jim Carrey, who's pretty spot on, not gonna lie. On top of that, the voice acting is genuinely some of the worst I've ever heard. Not because the quality's bad, but because none of the characters sound anything like the movie this game is based off.
You'll be sorry for this, motherfucker.
Not a single fucking one of them sounds the same, especially Kick-Ass, who sounds Hispanic.
If you're here, it's because you know who I am. Kick-Ass, the first real superhero and all that crap.
Even though he's very much not Hispanic in the comics or the films, it's actually so terrible, I genuinely feel like they went out of their way to find people who sound nothing like the movie counterparts. Like they just walked around the street and said, "Can you speak?" That'll do. Although the combination of terrible voice acting and shoddy cutscenes does make for some very funny moments.
There's always a last resort.
You think you can kill me? With a little needle?
That's not what it's for.
On top of this, the dialogue in the game is just as fucked. It pops up at random moments, it's almost never useful, and 99% of it is just pop culture references that always fall flat and are never funny.
Then it's time to do our Ninja Turtle act. Imagine you're in the scene at the dump in the Death Star and quit complaining.
It's like a copy of Captain America by Rob Liefeld.
Maybe he wants to put a laser on it like Dr. Evil. It's not like he's the new leader of Spectre or something.
All the dialogue can be best described like this. Say you're editing something and you have a timeline with all the audio clips in a certain order so it makes sense. Then you mix them up, just fuck around with them so they make absolutely no sense whatsoever, and then that's it. Say it's done. That's the dialogue in this game. So anyway, what's the actual gameplay like? Is it Kick-Ass? No. Firstly, you only ever play as Kick-Ass, not the others like Hit Girl, who most people would rather play as since she's a much cooler character. Who would want to play as Kick-Ass in this game when you literally have a choice of dozens of superheroes who are just much cooler than him? Also, the story is so twisted that any superhero would work, so they have no excuse for not doing it other than sheer laziness, obviously. There's also no co-op either, which is strange because this is literally the perfect chance to use it. However, most importantly, on Steam this game is advertised as a beat-em-up, but the enemies almost all of the time are optional. Think about that. This is a beat-em-up game and the enemies are optional. You can avoid every single one of them and run straight to the boss. However, this is actually a blessing in disguise because you have the choice to stick around and fight them, but after 30 minutes of playing, I can guarantee you won't want to. I played this game like I play Dark Souls, run past everything and get to the boss. But in this case, it wasn't to save Estus, I did it because I wanted to actively avoid the punishingly dull combat. It's that bad. It's astonishingly slow, incredibly delayed, and it takes around 5 to 10 minutes to beat the smallest group of basic enemies. And in addition to being slow, the combat is limited to 2 attacks, a baton attack and a kick. You won't need to use anything else, partly because the combos they give you just aren't practical when paired with the sluggish combat, but mainly because you won't need to. There's a surefire way to avoid every single attack in the game, the B button. It's used to counter attacks, but the windows are so incredibly generous. So long as you spam B with all your might in between attacks, you will almost never be hit. There are also 2 special attacks in the game, one where you electrocute the ground with tasers, which is completely useless, and one where you tase yourself to boost damage. This paired with the ridiculously easy dodging means every single boss in the game can be destroyed within 10 seconds.
I'm gonna rip out your fucking gut and the fire!
The only time when you struggle with combat is when you've got lots of really tanky enemies with weapons, like in boss battles, only because every now and then you will fuck up, and they do loads of damage. It's just a matter of time when you're fighting enemies for 20 minutes straight. There is also enemies with guns, but in an attempt to balance them, they've made them completely fucking pathetic and you never have to worry about them in combat.
No! No, don't do it! No! No, don't do it! No! No! Don't do it!
There is actually a disarming feature in this game to counter enemies with weapons. However, the game is very selective as to when you get to use it. 90% of the time, when you want to disarm an enemy, you won't be able to and you'll die.
Bastards!
your
I'm
head.
just a kid! Ow! Fuck you, man!
There is also a variety of finishers in this game that are used to, well, finish the enemies. You can't decide which one you get, and every time you do, the enemy falls to the ground and all the blood leaves their body, despite the fact you only broke their arm. There's about 4 or 5 of them, and they get very repetitive, very fast, and some of them, like this one where you choke an enemy, are so drawn out I audibly groaned every time I got it. Now let's talk about the enemy types in this game. You have small guys and hench 9-foot tall guys. They may look different with different skins, but they all have the exact same combat style unless they have a weapon. But at the end of the day, you deal with them in the exact same way, the B button. There are gangsters, goths, triads, goons hired by the bad guy, but the one that really stands out is police. In one level, you charge around a graveyard, attacking New York's swollest, while their friends watch a supposed superhero break their friend's arm so hard, all the blood leaves their body. I must have killed dozens of police in this game, and Kick-Ass is supposed to be a superhero. Hit Girl in the game even states that her dad told her to never hurt a police officer, yet here's famous superhero Kick-Ass slamming a police officer's head into the ground so hard she dies. They actually tried to make it so Kick-Ass only uses the less lethal looking finishers on the cops, but he still breaks their necks, leaving them in a massive pool of blood. Why are the police even using hand-to-hand combat anyway? Why are they so hench? Why are they even an enemy in this game?
My dad made me swear I would never hurt an officer in uniform.
Did you say fucking kill them all?
No, don't do it!
And as for the bosses, there's 5 of them, and I really hesitate to call them bosses because they're all the same. Like, they have different attacks and they look different, but so long as you spam the B button, they'll never hit you, just like every other enemy in the game. Providing the boss is on their own, they're just as easy, if not easier, than the weakest enemies you fight at the start of the game. There's just another weird feature with the bosses as well. You can kill the boss first, and it won't end the boss fight. So you'll kill the boss and you'll still have to beat all the backup enemies, which takes forever. Every boss fight in this game is fucking terrible. In terms of other things to do, there are puzzles, and by puzzles I mean puzzle. There is one puzzle, and to be honest, it's a stretch to even call it that. Basically, every now and then you'll have to use a taser on an electrical box to open the door, that's it. You do them all the fucking time as well, because they're all over the incredibly boring maps which even the creators acknowledge as being lazy.
I always thought that only happened in video games. You know, a cheap way to reuse similar scenes.
Also, what annoys me is that they don't even make the most of what they have. Like, there's a level where there's moving trains, and you can't push the enemies onto the track, but you yourself can jump onto the track. There is clearly so many features they avoided because they couldn't be fucking bothered to put them in. No co-op, no other characters to play as, it's just phenomenally lazy. There are other activities you can do, like tweeting to your fans when you have Wi-Fi, or spray painting over rude graffiti because naughty language.
What the fuck is that? This is offensive! Some kid might see that! No strong language in the streets, fellas! No strong language in the streets, fellas!
Now finally, I want to mention the quite frankly enormous amount of bugs I encountered in this game. On several occasions, enemies turned invisible and were still able to attack me. I could see out the map, finishers would often be totally fucked. I would fly down escalators anytime I finished an enemy on it. Enemies' heads would get stuck in the walls, and at one point every enemy on the level broke and would not attack me no matter how much I hit them. This lasted 25 minutes until I reached the next level, and that has to be the biggest game-breaking glitch I've ever seen. Overall, this game is fucking shocking on every level. Literally everything is bad, and arguably the most offensive thing is that this game is £15 when not on sale. I think the developers could be charged with some kind of crime for trying to charge nearly £20 for this utter garbage. There was clearly no effort made here, and again, who is even asking for a kick-ass game? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.